welcome back to the Paradigm Shift. My name is Walter Smith, and I'll be your host for this evening. Uh, Today I have a special guest, and we'll talk more about that. That's Ms. Olivia Obadiah. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Yep, you said it perfectly.
Okay. And, this is a paradigm shift. And so one of the things, the youth is the future. And therefore, I just like to spend as much time as I can hanging out with young people, And so last week, we had Angel on the show. And this was an introduction show, was an introduction to the 9 aspects of the awesome self. I don't know if this is a model that I created. And let me just kind of like this overview. So last week what happened was, we dealt with the first 5 aspects of the awesome self. I'm just going to go through them real quick.
All right,
So
because I missed that one.
The first aspect was the sexual aspects. Everybody who comes is a sexual being. No one can get here without having intercourse as a product of intercourse, except for they say the macroconception. Once a person's born, they're all conceived, right? And they're all conceived in the womb, okay, in the uterus. And that's a physical being growing, not some, every single human being. And then from there, once that physical being is born, they become a social being. Why? Because in order for anybody to exist after they're born, they need another entity, another being to help them develop and survive. Otherwise, they just die. Not some, all, okay? From there, the emotional self is developed. And the emotional self is generally, that piece of the self of that person, and that's how they communicate at that very young. We don't know what's going on. They cry, what's the matter? I don't know. They're hungry, they're wet, they're colicky, they need a burp, they're too sick, let's take them to the hospital. And then the next aspect.
They cry. Yeah, right? They have to know how to cry.
Right. So that's the emotional self, and everyone has an emotional self. And then the last aspect, which we touched on, which we're going to focus in and we're going to jump off with tonight, is the spiritual self, okay?
The spiritual.
Because everybody has a spiritual self. And, my premise is that the spiritual self of each human being starts to develop generally by those people who are caretakers, who are nurturing, that new being that's just, coming into the world. Based on the spirit that the people who care for them have, ultimately have a lot to do with that individual spirit. Also the spirit of the society they grow up into, okay?
Okay, so things like different religions and cultures that people may or may not.
Absolutely. So what I want to put an emphasis on is this. First thing I want to say is that the whole basis of this is that every single human being, without exception, is an awesome entity. When you're born, that seed means that you are awesome. And it doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily always do awesome things. But the whole notion of this is to deal with, it came out of the 9 aspects.
It does not mean that you're going to do awesome things?
No, it doesn't. You may do things that are awesome. What I mean when I say awesome, I mean inspire awe, okay? So, we have a tendency when we look at...
So some people go through life and do nothing of any kind of accomplish.
Right, and sometimes that creates awe in people. Because people say, oh my God, I can't believe this person spent all these years on this planet and they didn't do nothing with their self. That's an awe, right? We want to look at awe and think that it always means, fabulous, good. But awe means to inspire. Okay, so listen, we got a break coming up here, and when we get finished, we're gonna come back and we'll jump back off into this discussion, okay?
Okay.
Great.
The odds of him winning both the Daytona 500 and the Brickyard 400 in the same year, 1 in 195 million. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 88. I'm Jamie McMurray, and my niece has autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
So, I just moved in with this family, and It's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're gonna beat them and bust them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad today. Call or visit fatherhood.gov to learn more.
My name is Walter Smith, and I am your host. And I have my guest today,
I'm his guest, Olivia. Thank you.
And we were just talking about the 9 aspects of the awesome self. We were talking about inspiring awe. And so I'm trying to get people to look at awe from a different perspective, awe to inspire it, and that's awe. There's a new value. We tend to think, oh, if it's awesome, it has to be good. But when you see that situation,
But sometimes, as we learned before the break, awesome can also be really terrible.
Absolutely. It could be, oh my God, do you believe that? They killed so many Jewish people. Oh my God, I can't believe, what happened over there and now when they killed all those young babies, so no one wants to look at that. But that's awe-inspiring, not necessarily good, but awe.
It does make you step back and think.
That's right. So, my belief is that every single human being is an awesome entity. And how I got into this was I've been dealing in the field of chemical dependency, drug rehabilitation, and I came up with the 9 aspects of the awesome self as a way of helping people understand that first, this is what happened.
You came up with this?
Yes, this is my creation. I created this.
Really?
I created this. And,
wow, Walter.
And you know how I created it? It came about, I always used to want to be valuable, right? And I used to always think, what can I do so people would value me? Okay? This is in my own process of sort of metamorphosizing. And what I come to realize is that how I ended up, if I want to know how valuable I am, it just came to me one day. It will all be determined by the value that I create with my life. In other words, if I create value, no matter what anybody thinks about me, no matter what, any value that I create is created. It can't be negated by any negative thing that I did, because value is value. Okay? So I decided that since that was such a thing for me all the time, feeling like you don't value me, they don't value me, they don't value me, it made me realize, Walter, you're
can't be
looking
thinking
outside
about
of yourself for value.
Yes.
Why? How did that happen? So I realized that all had a lot to do with me being a drug-using individual.
Just like you were talking about, and just like we were talking about before, is it harder to assess yourself or from other people?
Mm-hmm. Well, at first, because it all starts from other people. Okay? In other words, when we're born, everything's in the hands of people or the society in which we're brought up in. Okay? So we could have been brought up in a worse society than this society, you know what I'm saying? However, what I realized is it doesn't matter. As I grow into my own humanity, that's still to be defined for me. So now I'm my own being. What am I going to do with my life? So I decided that since I have been working in this field, I had so many issues, and the 9 aspects of the awesome self, the person that's for. That's the person who's had some time, with not using. But they begin to believe that the drug is the problem, okay? So they may not use for 10 years, and then one day they use, and then all of a sudden they feel like that one day is bigger than the 10 days that they didn't use because of the belief. They say you're an addict and you have this disease. And so once you let this disease unleash it, you know, it just takes over. So I've come to realize this.
It takes over.
Well, my belief is this, is that
So,
we.
When you say things like taking over, that gives me the impression of some kind of force that might become stronger than us as individuals. And so I wonder, how can we bring in the question of spirituality, and possibly by spirituality I also mean different religious groups, different religions and cultures, when it comes to needing support from, you know, organizations and things.
Okay.